do we actually have and I really hate this phrase because I think it's really kind of like almost like derogatory, but the soft skills to be able to do it. I think we always kind of are a bit, I think because we kind of hold those in like opposition to kind of cold, hard logic, we always sort of discount soft skills when really, if you can't sell in ideas, if you can't present, if you can't go to the sales directors and say, hey, I've noticed this in the analysis I've been doing and you need to change your course of behavior.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Collectiv Conversations. I'm your host, FP&A expert Chris Ortega, bringing you the interviews from some of the most influential, knowledgeable finance, planning, and accounting gurus in the industry. Today, I'm joined by Zoe Cooke, who's the recently promoted, yay, Commercial Finance Director at MIQ. Welcome to the show, Zoe.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank
Awesome.
you for your very kind introduction.
Yeah. I mean, you're recently promoted, man. We got to celebrate these things. That's, you know what, Zoe, that's the thing that I've come to remember during this is like the biggest takeaway that I've had from this situation. And listeners, everybody, we're going to get a lot of the details, but is the small things, right? Like celebrating those successes, even in moments that we're facing right now. Like that's even more important. So, highlight on your success. You're absolutely, for all the listeners, I had an opportunity a couple years ago to actually see Zoe speak and present. Her passion, her knowledge, her experiences, and just your perspective is absolutely amazing. So I'm looking forward to learning. I got my notepad ready to take notes as well. So, yeah, I'm excited about this conversation.
Okay.
Awesome. So let's jump right into it. So the first question I like to ask each guest all the time is, what does FP&A, what are the first like word or phrases that come to your mind when you think of FP&A?
I think probably slow. I'm not sure that that's a great sort of advert for the industry, but I think we're so far behind where we should be. And when I sort of look at like what we consider to be automation, what we consider to be tech, and then I'll go and sort of speak to some of the guys in our company who work on like the product teams or like the analytics teams, and it's like they're off there in like rocket ships and we're sort of like in like one of the Flintstone cars, and I'm constantly just like, what do we need to do to get there? Because everything that we do in accounting and FP&A sort of in particular is so process driven, so it's so prime for all of this stuff. And I think one of the things that's really interesting about our industry at the moment is there are so many kind of tools and like softwares available that are supposed to kind of fix all this stuff for you and, you know, automate everything and all the rest of it, but like the groundwork hasn't been done to get the data to a point where any of that is useful. So what you end up with is it's like you have a really nice roof that's just going to go on a house that doesn't exist. And it's like, well, that's useless. Because if you
totally who wants to live in a house with just a roof?
It's like, unless you've actually done the work to kind of build it up, then like it's going nowhere. So that's one of the things that I'm really kind of interested in at the moment with FP&A.
Yeah, I think you talked about it, right? And I was given a session earlier today, and we are late adopters to a lot of different things like technology, right? Like, you know, some of the things that we're starting to talk about now, other industries, other roles, even inside of our organization, like you mentioned your product team, like they're light years ahead of that stuff, right? Like we are starting to really understand that automation, efficiency, developing deep business partnerships are like really the most like important things. But those are the same things we were talking about 5, 8, 10 years ago, right? Yeah. But it's that lagging aspect of it. So let's keep expanding on that, because I think that's really important for our listeners to know. So when you're working with your teams, and like how do you bridge that gap from being a slow kind of process to, you know, crawling to walking to running to some of the teams where they're just like laser sprint. Like, in your could you share some experiences that you've had to bridge that from being a slow kind of mindset to those kind of different phases?
I've been quite open about how when I joined MIQ, I was really quite surprised by what their sort of tech offering was in terms of accounting and finance, because when I joined, obviously it's a company where data and connected data is like its core, and so I was super like hyped about it because I was like, yes, I'm gonna find like all these like, it's gonna be super smooth, it's gonna be all connected, the data supply chain is gonna be amazing. And when I got there, it was like, okay, you have 21 different sources of truth for your data here. You're running like lookups on top of pivot tables, on top of like, I don't know, it was a mess. And I think what the first sort of 6 months or something, like I really tried to kind of build our reporting like on top of that, and sort of work within the frameworks that were already there. And what I kind of realized, probably a bit too late, if I'm being honest with myself, was that there wasn't really any point of that. And I had to sort of break it all down, start again, like build it up from first principles. So basically we got rid of everything. So now in our like management reporting, there is not one single piece of it. And, you know, we produce monthly, I think it's something like 230 slides. But there's not one of them that is still built the same way that it was when I joined 2 years ago. So everything now is like, it comes from one file that is straight out of the accounting system that, okay, we enriched it a little bit, but it's not kind of manipulated and changed and everyone's kind of fiddling with it. It's just, you put a file in, you press a button, Tableau updates everything. It all looks great. It's all in the right colors. And then if we want to change it, obviously it's much easier because we just pull the file again and then refresh the file. But it was a lot of work to get to that stage, because even just trying to convince people, like, I want to get rid of everything, like, that is hard, right?
That's like the hardest thing to get people to change. Like, get them to like, hey, we're going to take away your cookies and give you new cookies. Nobody likes their cookies taken away.
And, you know, there was no proof of concept. And I think the thing that was really kind of hard about it was what they had, like, sort of worked. Like, it was really inefficient. It was quite inaccurate, but it kind of solved the problem. And that's almost the worst position that you can be in, because then people have no kind of emphasis to change, because it's like, well, if we have something that works, like, why are we going to kind of greenlight you spending a year fixing data so that, you know, you might be able to shave 2 days off of it every month? And like, is a hard sell. It's a real hard definitely. Sell. But if we hadn't done that, then we wouldn't be set up for the next sort of 5-10 years. And I think that's the thing that now is becoming really clear, is that work was so important. But at the same time, it was like, okay, like, now you can tell me it was important. Now I've shown you why it was important.
Right.
So I think that was probably the most difficult thing. But I think just having that kind of strength of conviction of knowing, like, I know how data is supposed to look, I know how it's supposed to work, and I know how it's supposed to be joined up. So we need to do that regardless of kind of what everyone's telling us. That was probably the most difficult.
Yeah, and I think, like, Zoe, you a lot of themes that you had there. I think the first one is a quintessential, like, mistake, or like, I mean, I've looked at a lot of different, or I've had the opportunity to work in a lot of organizations. I do consulting work with a lot of different organizations, and that one version of the truth is like, every business faces that struggle. Like, I have yet to work at a business that has streamlined one version of the truth. Like, every consulting opportunity. I'm talking like Fortune 500 companies, publicly traded, billion-dollar organizations, and everybody's chasing for that one version of the truth because it is so valuable. And like, even when you think about the time we're in now, like, think of one version of the truth being so much important about navigating a business through a pandemic. Like, imagine organizations right now that have 8 different versions of what the truth is on top of all the other macro and micro variables that are changing, and you're trying to make decisions off of that. Like, how do you, like, that seems like the most stressful place a FP&A person can be. So, like, you building that from scratch and, like, going through and understanding that, hey, we probably have to just completely just, you know, sometimes to really build, you have to destroy. Like, you have to go in and just say, like, this isn't getting it. This got us to this point. But for us to look at our value proposition going forward, we have to completely remove, and this is what we have to build, right? Because that one version of the truth is, and people get the common misconception that the one version of the truth is like you click a button and it's like right there. No, it's to your house analogy that you. Yeah, like, don't tell business people that your business partners, they think you just go back there and just hit a button and you got all this stuff just right there available, right? Like, no, it's not like that. Like, there's a lot of effort we have to put into these things. So I really love how you talked about, you know, that sharing that experience of building it from scratch, but also connecting to the business about, hey, we're doing this not for the moment right now. We're doing this for the moment and business and team and value we want to have 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, right? And that's a building block. That's a building block that a lot of organizations and leaders fail to realize that is monumental in terms of your house. So I really appreciate sharing that. Another thing I want to dive a little deeper into is when you looked at your composition of your teams, right? I get asked this question a lot. Like, I've not worked in FP&A, accounting, finance teams where there's been like 50 of us. I've always worked in like agile, nimble, high performance and partnership accounting and finance team. When you think of high performance and partnership in terms of FP&A, what do you think are those most valuable skills for those FP&A professionals that are high potential, high performance FP&A people?
I think really it's kind of splitting into 2 streams at the moment. So one of the other things I'm super interested in right now is how the composition of our teams is going to change. So I keep coming back to this thought about why does everyone who works in FP&A need to be an accountant? And I think I've kind of now convinced myself that they don't need to be accountants.
Oh, Zoe, that's big. Hold on, you just Zoe. Hold on.
I think I have to hand back my SEMA membership if I say that, but
you just dropped an atomic bomb right there. Like, that is. I love it because I'm the same way.
Because when I think about like what are going to be the challenges for the next 5 years in our industry, it's can we connect our systems? At the minute, largely no. Can we kind of adopt any AI, RPA, all the stuff that you love and that I don't really understand? And at the minute, like, probably not. And then the other challenges are like, do we actually have and I really hate this phrase because I think it's really kind of like almost like derogatory, but the soft skills to be able to do it. I think we always kind of are a bit, I think because we kind of hold those in like opposition to kind of cold, hard logic, we always sort of discount soft skills when really, if you can't sell in ideas, if you can't present, if you can't go to the sales directors and say, hey, I've noticed this in the analysis I've been doing and you need to change your course of behavior, they're just going to be like, I don't need an accountant telling me how to do my job, like, get lost.
Of course.
So I think, and that sort of like understanding of working collaboratively, I think that's something that's really interesting. And I think the kind of systems architecture is really interesting. And I don't think that we have completely bridged the gap or are even staffing for those skills right now. There was a time like about 5 years ago when everyone was super into the idea of like business partnership, but didn't really like understand what that meant. So it was kind of like, well, can you sit in a meeting and say why you're out against budget? And it's like, that's not business partnership. Like, it's like,
not at all.
So I think really getting people who have that deep understanding of what does your business do is really hard. And I think getting that understanding of how can we build systems that are future-proofed, that have finance at the center, rather than finance just being the end point where all the data kind of ends up.
Zoe, oh man, like I was sitting here taking notes around it, right? And like there's three key themes that that resonated really strong with me. First one, yes, for dropping the atomic bomb, right? I think traditionally when people and leaders and organizations have thought about farming their top potential FP&A people, they're like, they have to have the strong IFRS or US GAAP acumen. They have to be a CIMA or a CPA, right? Like those things. Now, don't get me wrong. I know people are going to blow us both up on LinkedIn, which they always do. I know they're probably in your DMs right now. They're going to be like, what does Zoe say? But I think that's a good baseline to have. But that's not soil that you go plant FP&A in, right? That's not you got these FP&A seeds. You don't go plant them in an accounting soil, right? Mm-hmm. To me, and you talked about this one too, soft skills are the most important differentiator between a good, a great, and a legendary FP&A person. Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. But the downside of that, Zoe, is I don't know about you, but I didn't get business partnership 101 in college, right? I didn't get, art of storytelling, the 400 level art of storytelling, right? I didn't get all these different things that traditional education. I got this all on the work experience, and probably a lot of it I got just who I am, right? Mm-hmm. Which some of those things are differentiators, like everything that you mentioned, like the IT acumen, the out of connecting, right? Like those are so many different things that a CIMA exam, a CPA exam, doing the debits and credits, doing the financial statements, they don't necessarily like talk about those things, right? So I want to expand a little bit more on that soft skill approach, because I think that's such a hot topic for accounting, finance, FP&A leaders. When you think about people developing those skills, right? Like the art of storytelling, the business partnership, the IT systems acumen, how would you recommend or provide resources for people to go like, okay, I want to start getting better at business partnership, or I want to start getting better at the art of storytelling, or I want to start getting better in communication, collaboration, and connection? What would be your advice as far as resources or experiences people can gain to get that exposure?
I think you're exactly right. You can't learn it out of a book. It's impossible. You have to learn it from going out and doing it. And you have to take that plunge of kind of saying to, like, if you're a junior person, to kind of say to your manager, like, I need to be in the business and I need to be going out and finding what people are doing and working with them and talking to them. Like, don't put me away in a cupboard, like doing some typing. Like, that's useless. Like, it's absolutely useless. Like, you can do the maths in the cupboard until the cows come home. But unless you can actually go out and like talk to the guys who are selling the product, or, whatever it is your business does, talk to the guys who are dealing with like account management, who are doing the presentations about what it is that you do, and try and like learn off of them. And my other kind of best kind of advice is like any opportunity that you have to be doing any sort of presentations, whether that's within your team or like to the wider business, like you should take them. I know like we all hate doing public speaking. It's like, it's genuinely like the worst, but it's so crucial.
I struggle with it.
I cannot believe that, Chris. You're so good at it. Like, there's absolutely no way you struggle with it. I just don't believe you. and like just take those opportunities. And I think one of the things is we are so limited as to what our understanding of like being an accountant is, and it's so small, and there's so many things that you can develop into and that your career can develop into if you kind of broaden out those horizons. So we kind of really encourage the guys on the team to kind of just collaborate a bit more with the other guys. And, you know, they're, from when they graduate, they're put in front of like managing directors and, you know, whatever, because they need to understand how those guys think in order to answer the questions that they're being asked from an analysis standpoint. Because if they can't kind of second guess what is it that I'm actually being asked rather than what I'm being asked via email, then it's just everything takes longer. Everything is like, superly inefficient, and you just have to keep going back and back on it. So yeah, really, it's exposure, and it's frankly like doing things that you think are kind of scary.
For sure. Like you talked about one thing in there, and it's like, what does it mean to be an accountant, and what does it mean to be an FP&A person? Right. And I think so many times people have like married those two together and think like an accountant and an FP&A person are the same. I think there are some skill sets and some mindsets that translate over, but those are two completely different thought patterns, right? Those are two completely different, you know, when I think of accountant, right, now I think of someone that is very, you know, they up to date on the US GAAP, the IFRS, they know how to record an impairment entry, they can do the financial statements, they can, you know, like they can manage the tactical operations of a business, right? When I think of what does it mean to be an FP&A person, I want to get your thoughts on these two questions too, right? When I think of what it means to be an FP&A person, it's not financial planning analysis, right? To me, that's a financial partner and advisor in the business. That's what FP&A means to me, right? That's what I go and do, right? Like some people ask is like, well, Chris, man, you had like the accounting background. So yeah, I traditionally started down that route. But, you know, 10 years ago, I realized like this isn't where the future is going to go. This isn't going to be like the most value add that I'm going to bring to the organization. This isn't going to be the most value add that an organization is going to be looking at. Like it's going to be all these other things, right? Like what you mentioned, the soft skills and the exposure, right? Like you got to take risk, man. Like you got to be willing to put yourself out there. And I talked with an organization called Planful about this last week, and we talked about the failure, right? You got to be willing to take failure. You got to be willing to put yourself out in the front to learn from anything, right? Like you got to, I think like if that's any way to separate yourself is the willingness and the comfort and the confidence to go through and say, you know what? I'm scared of this job. I'm scared of this presentation. You know, I'm presenting in front of Zoe and she's going to pick me apart with my analytical, but you know what? I'm going to go out here and do it. So you got to be able to do those things. So my question back to you is what you expanded on. What does being an accountant mean to you? And what does being a top level FP&A person mean to you?
Well, firstly, I think accountants get really bad press. Whoever's been doing like the accounting PR for the last like 40 years, like they have really dropped the ball, because the amount of times that, and I imagine you get this too, but I don't know if it was in your mouth, that someone said to me, oh, you don't strike me as an accountant. And I'm like, well, why? Like, I am an accountant. Like, like how many accountants have you actually met? Like, probably none. But yes, I think it is that differentiation between we're going to do the stuff that is the structure of the accounting, and, you know, all of the things that we need to do. There's huge value in understanding the IFRS stuff. There's huge value in being able to understand capitalization and, you know, all the sort of super technical stuff that in a million years I would never want to touch. But that's just because, frankly, I don't really understand it. So, I'm sure that's a whole nother side that is completely ripe for sort of technological innovation. I think the only difference really with why FP&A tends to be the bit that people think of as being sort of, I don't know, a bit more interesting or kind of a bit more innovative is because we're just a bit further along in the process. So,
right,
you know, we have some tools that I really hate the phrase automation, though I use it all the time, but like that optimize what we do. There's not that many tools that have really optimized the sort of essential bookkeeping piece. You know, yes, there's stuff that does like AI around like AP and AR and whatever, but the actual kind of mechanics of, okay, then we post journals, then we do this, then we do that.
Right.
So much of that is exactly the same as it was when I graduated. It's like not changed. Everyone still has it on Excel.
It's
like
still the same.
All of the like the process has been the same for what, like 600 years?
Since the dinosaurs. Since the dinosaurs. It's been accounting has been the same way since the dinosaurs.
Someone told me, though I'm not sure, though I don't think it's true, but someone told me that Machiavelli invented double entry bookkeeping. I don't think that's true, but it's a great story because that is the sort of evil thing that he'd be up to. But you know, like that was a really long time ago.
Right.
We've been doing it the same way. The mechanics of it are exactly the same. We can optimize that. We haven't. That's not to say there's not innovation in that sector. Like, I think it's super interesting. The thing that I think is different between accounting and FP&A is really not that much. It's just that it's just that we're looking at it from a different lens. The accounting is this is what's happened, and the FP&A piece is like, well, why has that happened, or what is going to happen next? And that for me is more interesting because what's happened has already happened, and like, you know.
Yeah, that's history. Yeah, and to me, I've always looked at it like that differentiator for me from an accounting to finance is like 3 business questions. What do we say we're going to do and what do we do is like accounting, right? We said we're going to do a budget of 10. We actually did 8 widgets, right? So, but the entire value proposition and where we win is that next business question. What are we going to do about it, right? Like that is where you get into so much more complex. And think about it from the pandemic that we've been in, right? Like, I think this has been the biggest 15 seconds of fame for like our industry because organizations are looking to us to say, hey, chief revenue officer, salespeople, you got to take the back burner. Like, we need our finance people. Y'all need to drive the ship for probably the next 2 to 3 years. Like, y'all need to navigate this stuff, and we need to like make sure we are tight with the CFO, tight with the commercial finance director, tight with finance, because now is our moment to step to the forefront to guide businesses through, right? You don't guide businesses through a pandemic by saying, nobody knew what the hell the budget was for the pandemic. Like, nobody knows that, right? And nobody knows what is you know, it's forever changing now, right? But people are spending their time to say, okay, what can we do about it? Scenario planning is so important now, right? So transitioning to our next topic, when you think about those in the experiences that you've been over the last year, I know you're in London, so you guys are still under lockdown. Hopefully you guys get free, man, because over here in the U.S., Zoe, it is the wild, wild west. Like, masks are like, what's a mask? Like, what's a mask? What is that for? Like, I wear the mask to come in, and then I can just do anything I want. It is like normal over here right now. But when you think about the future themes, right? So we talked about accounting, finance. You talked about the soft skills of, learning IT and those things. When you think about like the future trends in the last year and a half that you've been in the ground level, business partnership, promoted, guiding your business, what are those themes that you're like, hey, I got $100 and I'm putting $30 here, $30 here. Like, where are you placing your bets on FP&A in the future and what those things are to you?
So my bets are going on MIQ's favorite phrase, connected data. So we're about to start building a whole business intelligence department, which is essentially going to be tasked with connecting all of our different data sources, setting up that whole API infrastructure. Like, I'm so excited about it. Like, that's number one. Number two is really that commercial partnering side. We do it okay, but we don't really have the sort of on-demand bespoke reporting in the way that I'd like it yet. So that's sort of number two. And then number three is kind of how can we develop the FP&A tools that we have right now to future-proof. So how can we get it so that we're not just adding 27 spreadsheets together to consolidate some numbers? It's seamless, it's in the cloud, it's the right people have the right access. And yeah, those would be my three bets: connected data, commercial partnering, and future-proofing the FP&A proposition.
Those are fire moments right there. And because those are so important now as we continue to navigate, right? Like your connected data. I mean, I remember, Zoe, the first time I've always been an advocate of technology and loved it. And I remember the first time I walked into an organization, and it was when I left public accounting years and years and years ago. And I was like, man, I'm at this high growth entrepreneurial company. They have, Tableau. They have all these different softwares. I was under the naive impression that I was going to walk in there and have access to like all these different data points. And they were like, no, Chris, we own Tableau. Marketing owns this software. Sales owns that. You handle your GL. And it was just like, I was sitting there and I was like, how do we all connect? So like connecting those dots on data is like any organizations, like that should have been your goal like 6 years ago. But now, right, the pandemic has forced people, like we're in this remote environment, right? So data is still readily available that you can communicate, but like making it more proactive and more advantageous for people to consume is like vital nowadays, right? And to your second point on commercial partnership, right? Like now that FP&A, accounting, finance is at the forefront of navigating these businesses, this is even more important for us to bridge that down with the commercial teams, right? Because eventually, things are going to open back up. The vaccine's already out in a lot of communities and getting this momentum. It's not going to go back to what it was before the pandemic, but there's going to be there's still opportunities. Like there's still companies that are getting 60, 80, 90% revenue growth in different industries, right? So like that commercial alignment and how you accelerate that growth and how you not necessarily control that growth, but you make it manageable, because sometimes too much growth is like, it feels like the wheels are falling off. Like you're like, I don't even know how this shit's staying together. Like we're growing 237% year over year. Like this is crazy, right? And then your third point is, really the FP&A future proof, right? And I want to go a little deeper in that because that's a new term I haven't heard. When you think about like future proof and FP&A, like what does that mean? Like what does that actually mean to future proof FP&A?
So for me, it's all of the things that my team currently spend their time doing are automated and part of the system and don't require people to be running them. So we shouldn't need someone to sit there and consolidate our numbers. A computer can do that for us. So let's build it so that a computer does it for us. We shouldn't need people in 8 different countries to be submitting Excels with this is my revenue forecast. You can do it in the cloud. So let's do it in the cloud. Let's get it so that it's all in there. The data's in the right way so that then we can start mining it. Then we can start doing some proper sort of data science on it, rather than kind of, okay, you go away and prep it. We won't hear anything about it. Then send it back to me. I'll do something with it that you don't understand. It will go into another Excel, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually it ends up in SAP. Like, it's too much. Like, it's too much. There is no need for any of that. Like, put it all into
it sounds like hot potato. You give me the potato, hot potato.
But it is.
It's like the forecast is the hot potato. We're just passing it
and
around.
Like whenever I kind of I don't know, I've worked at 3 different companies, and every time I've gone to another one, I've been like, maybe this is going to be the one that doesn't do everything on Excel. And like everyone does everything on Excel. And like, I don't know. Then I was like, well, maybe it was just the 3 companies I've been at. But the more I talk to people, the more I kind of engage with sort of the wider accounting community, like we're really at a bad point in terms of our adoption of tech. Like, and the more I learn about it, the more I think it's like a real problem, because like
a huge problem.
Wild. and there's, you know, if you're doing stuff like that so manually, you open yourself up to so many accuracy problems, so many kind of like audit problems. And then what that translates into is that the advice that you're giving back to the business is not good. And what I've really learned from this year is that the most important bit of my job is to take the pressure off the business leads in terms of understanding what's going to happen with their finances, to let them go out and do the strategy piece that they actually need to do. If the guys who you've got whose experiences, how do they sell your product, are sat there worrying about like, well, what happened in T&E 2 weeks ago that means we're over budget, then like that's worthless. Like
that is worthless.
Waste. Like there's no point. And if you can take that pressure off them so that they can go and do their job better, then that's only going to help your business, because then you grow, you know, that's how you grow. So I think this year has really changed my kind of perspective of what my job is, as more of an enablement and more of a how do we give people the tools to go and do what they do better, rather than like, oh, how do I teach people how to do a bit of finance or a bit of forecasting? It's like, that's not their job. They shouldn't be doing it. Like they didn't spend 3-4 years in postgrad education learning how to do that. So let's not just assume that they can. Let's let the people who know how to do that in collaboration with them, but just take that pressure off and let them go and do growth stuff.
That's awesome. And thank you for explaining that. And future proofing is all about automation optimization, but it's also about putting people in the right elements to perform, right? Like if you automate and optimize what FP&A is doing, and that enables other functional areas to go accelerate what they need to do, that's the best win scenario, right? And to me, like everybody should be thinking about now, definitely right now, how do we future-proof and how do we take the learnings that we had from the last year, which is, you know, my next question to you, so I'm giving you a segue to think about it. But how do we take these learnings, how do we take these things to, if we come across another situation like this, right? Because I don't know about you, Zoe, but there's no way our global teams were ready for the pandemic. Like we weren't ready for that. Yeah, we had, you know, our rolling forecast, and, you know, I've developed and my team has developed great partnerships inside the business, but nobody, not one organization I think can say we were ready to go everything to face that we or continue to face during the pandemic, right? But to your point, how do you take those learnings so you future-proof a situation that if that did occur, you've got the tools, the technology, the partnership, the enablement, the structures already like in the process of working. That way, when that storm comes again, you've already like laid the groundwork. Like you're already a step ahead. So I really appreciate you sharing that future-proof aspect of it, because I never looked at accounting, finance, and FP&A to future-proof, right? I've always looked at it as like we got to build it now to have a vision of what we want to do, but your philosophy is like have the vision, build it now, execute on it on the future of it. So that's awesome. So next question I want to have for you is like looking back over the last year, right? We talked about your trends going forward, where you're placing your bets on. What would you say were some of the biggest, like humbling, biggest takeaways that you've had looking back over the last year?
I think for me, the most humbling thing that I saw in the last year was really how much emphasis the leaders at MIQ put on making sure that they looked after their people first. And when we, in terms of career, like that, whatever it was, like exactly 1 year ago, like I think we got sent home on like March 13. The kind of like 3 weeks that came after that, like that was the most stressful 3 weeks of my career, like hands down. We were like, in sort of daily meetings with the founders of our business, which like, like they're lovely, but you don't want to be in that situation. And we're, looking at the whole of the revenue pipeline, what's dropping out, like how do we come to a decision quickly about something that is huge, right? Because you were seeing like people were like immediately being made redundant places. People were like worried about whether they were going to have a job or not. And what really, I don't know, like whenever businesses talk about putting people first, and when they talk about culture, a lot of the time it's just kind of nonsense. Like it's like a bit of a PR technique, right? You say like, it's always people first.
It's a sweet nothing. I like to call those whisper, they whisper sweet nothings. Yeah.
Exactly. And until I was sat in, I won't go into the ridiculousness of what last year was for me, but essentially I was about to move into a new place. So I'd moved back in with my parents for like 2 weeks, and then we all went into quarantine. So I got not stuck, they're very lovely, with my parents for like 6 months. So I was literally like,
you're like, oh my God, no, why did I do this?
So I was like literally like stuck in like my childhood house, like having these discussions about like, what are we going to do with the 700 staff that we have, and making mass redundancies, like all of that stuff, like it was not even part of the conversation. Like straight away it was, we need to make a decision quickly because we need our staff to have security. We need to, if possible, we need to protect people's jobs for at least 6 months, and they need to know that they've got a job for the next 6 months. And if that means we have to kind of, eventually what we did was we moved everyone to a 4-day week, and we all took kind of like a sliding scale of pay cuts, like depending on seniority. And, but what that meant was like, you didn't have everyone like super frantic about, am I just waiting to be cut? Like, I know that my job's secure, and what that meant was everyone could get back to work in terms of fixing like the business and going out and reshaping what it was that they needed to be selling. So actually what ended up happening is we all went back to 5 days a week, like quicker than what we'd planned, because the guys were like doing amazing, and we ended up like basically very nearly hitting our original budget because everyone.
Salute, nice.
I feel like I should get some props for doing the budget the year before.
Zoe, I'm virtual patting you on the back right now. Zoe, this is a virtual pat on the back. This is a virtual high five. This is a virtual like pound. This is me doing like a virtual, like I'm happy for Zoe hitting her budget dance. I'm doing all the celebration. That's phenomenal.
So like the business was doing great, but I think really it was very humbling to see that was not sales patter, that was so core to what they thought what they think the identity of the business is. And it really made me kind of reevaluate like, what is the relationship that you have with a business? Because it's always been my experience that, okay, yes, like no one loves going to work, but like you like, being there and your colleagues are great, but like maybe you don't like the company so much, or like, okay, this isn't what I do with my spare time or whatever. But really seeing how they wanted to make sure that first things first, everyone was looked after, everyone knew that what was okay. If people wanted to go and like spend time with their kids and like cut their hours so that they could look after their kids, like they made options for that. Like all these things that were just so nice. At risk, like that's like a bad word in the UK, but were so nice that it just, I found it very humbling that cutting people's jobs was not something that was considered.
Zoe, man, that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that, because for me, when I look back over it, right, I'll never forget the moment that the world shut down, right? I'll never forget. I'll never forget this the rest of my career. I looked on LinkedIn, and this was like my North Star, and I didn't know it was my North Star at the time. There was a post, and it said, remember how organizations, leaders, entrepreneurs, board of directors treat their people during this time right now, because that's a true reflection of their culture, their values, and what the company stands for. And I remember reading it the morning of, like, everything was virtual, and like everything was just like all the dominoes were starting to fall, right? And that has been something that has carried me, and it continues to carry me as a finance, accounting, FP&A person, because to me, that is one of the most important jobs that we have right now. Because at the end of every scenario that we plan, every forecast that we produce, every KPI that we measure is a human, right?
Yeah.
That's a customer, that's an employee, that's a future employee, right? That's looking at you. That has been so important. And I think like that has really got me thinking about this whole thing of what our next evolution is going to be around empathetic, data-driven decision making, right? Like that is the core of what we do, right? And it's so encouraging to hear from, your experiences being in London and being in the UK, because in the US, it was depressing, Zoe. Not only that, but like we had the people aspect of it about jobs, right? We were dealing with the people aspect of it when it comes to like the social and cultural things that were going on. Mm-hmm. It was like last year was the definition of what the value of it is to be a person in the world, not just in a country, right? Because everybody's hats that they wear professionally, personally, mentally, emotionally, still, right? Still people are going through this right now. And we as leaders, particularly in accounting, finance, FP&A, have to be conscious that our leaders, our business partners, our employees, our indirect teammates are all going through some sort of transition on a lot of different variables of their lives, right? And we have to be knowledgeable of that, right? Mm-hmm. So really salute the MIQ team and really going through that. A lot of organizations and industries were continue to be affected, and they had to make decisions around that stuff. So having a people first, and I always say this, man, people are greater than profits, right? Like I don't ever want to work at an organization that they rather put EPS or earnings before a person's livelihood, right? Like I won't stand for that. Like if that's the kind of person you need leading and things like that, and that's how you want to do, that's not where I want to be, right? Because I realize that, as leaders, we have a responsibility to make sure in our scenario planning, our forecasting, that we're being honest and transparent as much as we can to our leaders and to our teams, but we're also listening and being empathetic to the challenges and difficulties our leaders and a lot of people are facing on a lot of different levels. So, Zoe, thank you so much for sharing that. And that's a really powerful connection point for me, because that has been something that I've like marshaled and really like for the rest of my career going to stand tall in. So it's good to have another soldier in the trenches on that people aspect.
No, I'm really glad as well that you touched on the sort of social and cultural piece as well, because I think one of the other things that sort of really surprised me about MIQ in a good way last year was obviously after everything that happened in the summer in the States last year, you saw so many companies that would post stuff about anti-racism or about Black Lives Matter. And we've talked very briefly about this in the past, but you'd have this sort of performative kind of like empathy, and it's sort of like, yeah, like this matters, like we feel like it culturally should, so we'll put out our PR statement about it. And I'll be honest, when MIQ did the same, I kind of thought like, okay, this is going to be, you make a statement and then you take no action, because that's what businesses do.
Right.
wow, like the journey that this company has had over the last year in terms of inclusion and diversity is just wild. Like we have had like sustained action on anti-racism the whole time. Like everyone's had training. We've had so many speakers come in. We're doing now like racial and gender, like pay equity adjustments. It's been absolutely incredible. Like we now have it so that everyone has to have one of their KPIs be focused around inclusion and diversity. So for Q1, that's around mental health. The kind of annual one is around like anti-Black discrimination, and it's been really like nice to see how it has not been just a PR opportunity in this company, because you know, I'll be honest, like I had some side eye at the beginning.
Of course.
But,
I mean,
and I think it's been really interesting as well. So our two founders, one is Asian and one is biracial, and they have really been very open about how difficult and how much learning they've done the last year in terms of racial bias, and also have done, like, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say they've done a lot of reflecting on mistakes that they've made in building the business, and now what can they do to fix that. And like it's incredible, like some of the conversations we're having now around like paternity leave and around like making sure that our recruitment is kind of intersectional is like so like it's just so interesting. It's so great to see, because it's exactly what you're saying. It's that putting the people at the heart of your business, and you know that's all well and good if all your business is a bunch of like old white dudes, but it's most of the time it's not. So you know, if that's what it looks like on the poster, then like you're probably doing something wrong. So yeah, that's been really great as well, I think.
Yeah, and that's a strong point, and I think, you know, that's been where I subtly look back and I look at a lot of people putting that PR statements, the sweet nothings, and I'm like, okay, what's your plans, right? How have you taken JEDI, which is, you know, justice, equality, diversity, and inclusion? How have you treated that methodology the same way you treat a KPI in your organization, right? What dollars have you committed, right? And that's where I sit back and look, because everybody's going to come out with a Twitter post and they do it for the likes and shares and all these different things. But like, what are you really doing? And it seems like at MIQ, you guys not only put that out, but you're saying we're putting it into action and we're going to continue to progress through it, right? Justice, equality, diversity, and inclusion is not a 1-year budget plan that you set out. This is multi-year. This is multi-generational, multifaceted, a lot of different levels. This is going to be ongoing, right? And salute to you and the entire MIQ team for really like not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, right? And that's a huge differentiator, and that's big. So salute to the team and salute to you. I know you're a strong proponent of that. Zoe, next time you have a junior financial analyst position open, like send that to me. I want to come work for you. You are absolutely amazing. So, you know, that I want to end it off there. Zoe, thanks again for your time. This was an incredible conversation. I got so much value out of this. So many notes, so many things I'm going to talk with you offline about. As we reach the end of this time we have together, would you like to say your socials or where the audience can find you?
Yeah, I'm not great at social. I don't do Instagram, I don't do Twitter, I don't do Snapchat, TikTok, whatever. Like I just it kind of I think it can be quite damaging actually. Like so I am on LinkedIn, so it's just Zoe Cooke on LinkedIn, but I am slow to respond on LinkedIn. I will confess. But yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. Hey, Zoe, thanks again. Thanks to our guest, Zoe Cooke, for sitting down and dropping some knowledge on us. And remember to follow us on their socials for more FP&A wisdom. with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of Collectiv Conversations. Remember to like and share and subscribe and become part of the Collectiv community, and stay updated on our next new releases. Bye for now. Thank you, Zoe, for your time. Stay safe and well, and thank you for your time.